And then when I did get married, thank goodness the wedding car was a Jowett, the the other car was for the honeymoon was a Jowett. Well, the first car was a Singer Gazelle, in 1959. Singer Gazelle. Did have a couple of motorbikes prior to that. Well, a Honda 50 and then a TS 100 Suzuki. Hardly, well, I suppose the Suzuki was a motorbike. Had lots of fun on it. Good up on the Port Hills. And when I joined the post office and Vic became my boss, Snowy, who was his deputy after Vic, he had just done up at Bradford. He did get his license, but he was never a confident sort of driver. And he went over to the coast and came back and smacked a bridge on the way back. And that completely, he lost all idea of wanting to drive pretty much after that. Um, Kevin Charman, who was also in the same staff, one of the typewriter section mechanics, he bought the Bradford off Snowy, and that was he thought at that stage he'd joined the car club, and we know we there was a rally coming up in Blenheim, and I think he was pretty keen on going to that, and it just so happens that I thought, oh, I wouldn't mind being keen, or wouldn't mind having a Brady and go to something like that. So we were just talking about it, and then Snow was looking in the local press at morning tea time, and he said, "There's a Bradford for sale in here." I said, "Nah, you're joking, surely." He said, "No, Cresta Car Sales have got it." So I talked to Vic, and we had a job over that way, I'm sure, and we went and had a quick look at it, and I pretty much bought it on the spot. So I had the Singer Gazelle and the Bradford. So I was just doing up the Bradford on the back lawn, so it was always a bit of a rush trying to do anything because you had to get it done in a way and covered up in case it was going to be raining overnight or anything. Vic came and helped a lot as well. So, so that was the first one. That would be 76 because it was the year of the Blenheim Rally. All sorts of things. Did gymkhanas, did night trials, um, petrol trial, economy runs, and then the big thing was to go up to Blenheim, which was pretty successful. Um, I did after we'd got the woodwork sorted, and then we had to go. We took it to a paint shop, Ward's Paint Shop, which is still in the area of Wordsworth Street, because Snowy, his son-in-law, worked there as a panel beater, and it was painted there, as was the yellow Jupiter I had. It was painted there too. But no, we got it all up and going. Had very little trouble apart from on the way north, coming down off the hills into Seddon. The exhaust decided to let go, so it sounded like a bullnosed, a bulldog tractor coming into Blenheim. Then we got a bandage onto it, and at least it made it sound a bit better. But yeah, that was the first thing. Absolutely loved the weekend up there. The following rally, because Vic had bought the Jowett 10 from someone in Wellington. I'm not sure exactly who it was, but he was going to do that up. But then I think he got quite involved with other activities. So I said, "Oh, if you'd like to sell it, I'd buy it off you and get it on the road." So we did that, and then the following year or the following rally up in the north, up in the north of, well, next Blenheim one, it went up there. We took it up there. So, but we always used to travel pretty much as a group when we were going north. Kevin and Vic went up to Wellington and bought the leftovers or the cars that Barton's had pulled apart. They were up Stoke Valley and they trailered them back. Kevin managed to get a chassis from Wally, which was a real derelict 27R, and he was thinking about making a start with that, but he had the body, and I think Ray Mackay bought the body off him. But in the end, because no, that wasn't that. Oh, it gets a bit involved with all these car bodies. But no, that was put. The good body that came from Barton's went on to the one that your father was going to do up, which I bought off him half done. That you'll see it in undercoat on the photos, and then progressively, I didn't paint that one. That went back, like I say, towards paint, panel and paint, and they painted it in, I think it was Kismet yellow. It might have been, but yeah. So that was a nice original Jupiter, really. About the only thing that wasn't would have been the seats. The hood was original, the windscreen, the wheels, the diff ratio was the high diff. Yeah, it was a pretty original. Even it didn't have inner side guards, and it didn't have the guards under the mud guards that stopped the stone chips. But I made some of them up. But they got that um, up and going, and I had that car for about 12 or 13 years, I think. Well, it was in the. I went with one of the chaps who was in our section who came in when Snowy retired, basically, Grant McNeil, and with him we just talked over going to the Lady Wigram trophy race, and when we were there, a chap from the Canterbury Sports Car Club, Phil somebody, came and said, "Have you ever thought of having a bit of a play on the track with us?" I said, "Well, not really." He said, "Oh, well, you might do it." So I got a membership, and it was all very light what they did. They more or less had sort of half, you had maybe 4 cars on the track, but you couldn't actually race against them. You could only race to try and gain time on them, or something like that. So it was not racing as such, but it was good fun. And you had quite a few cars, sports cars, turn up at that, quite varied. It turned out that Chris Tarrant had got the derelict chassis from Nick that had come via Wally. And it was when Wally was in Highstead Road, the chassis was over the back fence in the empty section there. And I think Kevin might have got it originally thinking he could do it up, but it was pretty not easy to do. And you needed a body, a decent body. So I thought, oh, well, if somehow Chris got it off Nick Dorber because I think he was going to dump it. And then Chris was going to dump it. And I said, don't dump it, I'll have it. It's for giveaway, I'll have it. So I got that. And then I thought, oh, well, I'll make a start and put it back to as close to original as I can. We got that up on 4 wheels, but I was still short of a body. So then at that point, Wally said, well, there's actually a body or a remnants of a Jupiter up in Napier at David or Bill Uren's, but David then took it over. And if you want, it's mine, says Wild, but if you want to go and get it, it's yours. But this one meant that I could get another car back on the road, even though initially I was only just going to race it. And then I thought, we're spending all that money on it. Why not get it street legal? And it was at the point where they were just changing to tightening up what you could do yourself. So it was a bit of a thing to get it up and going and warranted and alive and using it. So that's what I did. So it started off with aero screens and no hood. Then Wally came up with the hood off the chassis, off the stuff from Nelson, from Napier, the derelict that you see pictures of with the bulkhead lying back and the windscreen on it, and had been chopped down the back end about 18 inches up from the rear tail lights. So, but he managed to track down those bits of aluminium as well. So we were getting there. Auckland members found me a couple of doors. I think it was number 505, with the body number. And then, of course, we had a mould off my yellow car because we had a few people who needed bonnets. And, being humble, not very well paid people, we had to do the best we could do with what we had. So it was a matter of going fiberglass, which we felt, we did it like the genuine Jupiter bonnet in 3 sections, which meant that you could put piping in it. Or, if you didn't know, people generally wouldn't know that it was just a fiberglass bonnet there because it had the louvers and everything in it. Well, it was lighter. It was much lighter, because and it certainly proved its worth, even though it had a lower diff ratio. I mean, it was quick off the line, but it tended to need an overdrive or something to really make the most of it. But it still did all right. Down the main straight, you could still get up in the mid to high 70s, maybe 80s. I mean, I did once get it up to well over 90, but that was on a flying kilo, but it was a bit scary because it's even pretty hard at that time. Yep. Right. The Brady is up at the Wynn Museum. It has had a deck transplant, which I don't know why they would do that, but because it was a good deck. So they did that, and the yellow Jupiter is the one that Andrew Fletcher's got. It was advertised at Smith City Market auctions room as Jowett parts. Went to Smith City Market, put in a bid, got it. There was a few others bidding for it. It's a 1916 Jowett 7, though even Jowett can't decide because in some of their advertising they call it a 7, some others they call it a 9, just to try and sell them in bits and pieces like that. But no, it was 1916. Now, it was owned or brought into the country by a doctor down at Sumner, Dr. Fife Slater, a good Scotsman. And I don't know how he got it, whether it came over here as cargo, because I know at once, I looked up his military records because he was in the territorials and he did go over to Egypt and got on a ship and went to Gallipoli, but he didn't land. He was only allowed to look after patients. Now, whether he had been to Jowett, because there was reference made to him going to England in 1915, a year earlier than the car. Now, whether he went there and went to Jowett and purchased it, thinking that he'll get it back, because knowing how long things take to get from here to there, especially in war years, that would be a possibility. But he had it, and he used to use it to go up over the zigzag into Littleton, to do his part of his territory, part of his practice. Clary Buxton knew about it. He had some later model vintages and thought that that might be good for some spears. But I think there's actually a picture of him. I've got a picture of him with his head coming out through the bonnet. Through the hood, not the bonnet. That'd be a bit painful. But coming out through the hood, where it's torn apart. It's well, Vic and I, or Vic and the main, did up the motor for it. I keep turning it over. It's got the brakes are all done. It needs the drive shaft hooking up. It got the radiator has been completely dismantled and rebuilt. Very luckily, I got it out only a matter of months before the place where it was repaired and checked over burnt down. So that was a pretty close call. So that's done. Oh, it's had new mudguards made. The woodwork in the main is done. There's a bonnet on it. Next thing will be to look at the windscreen and the pillars, the brass pillars and stuff for on those. It's got the wheels have been painted, and yeah, it's getting there. It looks like a car now. Well, certainly there was a lot of people have gone through the club in the time I've been there. There were some especially interesting fellows like Wally Fletcher, very interesting, knew everybody it's about. But you know, he was always pretty genuine in that. So yeah, and very interested in the club, absolutely. So a good stalwart. And Laurie McKee at the same sort of time, he was around. We just gave Derek Anson his 50 years badge. So he's been in the background there, but always around. Of course, we had Chris Tarrant and his sister Cherie. But unfortunately, with the passing of Chris, it's not quite the same. And of course, we've got Vic, who's the main spearhead of the branch, and keeps it ticking over for sure. A few others, Ivan McDonald, Kevin Charman. There's numerous ones. A few standouts like Mort Cruikshank, who was over on the coast, but he did everything he could to go to rallies and certainly advertise the Brady and that over there. And we've got, of course, Len and Anne Howman and their family. They certainly had a few Bradfords, and we did some really interesting and nice events, like going up to Erewhon Station, and we actually stayed though at Erewhon Park, which is probably 5 miles beforehand or something like that. But we had some really great weekends up there because it was very isolated, and you just you could have lots of fun, you know. And so those sort of things were great. Murray Young was one who organised a lot of that stuff. And because we had Barry and Lee Ems, Barry was always great when it came to rallies, national rallies, South Island rallies, at organising the old prizes for raffles and stuff, as far as giving them out and stuff like that. Very good. Because some of the other early ones was Jenny and Steve Johnson, and Sid Bradford. Like I say, he was helpful when we were doing the Jupiters together, and he only lived along the road from where I was, and around the corner a bit, and you were there at his place, so only about 2 or 3 minutes away. So that was always handy. We could work in with one another. And he had access to a lot of equipment that was very handy, plasma cutters and the like. But no, we had some great times. We used to, snow runs were always reasonably popular. Very wet and cold at the end, namely because snow fights, but they were always reasonably well attended. And of course, we used to have events midweek at that stage, or back when Sid lived off Pages Road. He was around the road from his father, and he was the caretaker of the Aranui Hall. And we could get it, we always, before we had any club rooms, the Aranui Hall was one of our third places that we went to. The first one I can remember, I think, was St Margaret's Hall out at Bishopdale. Then we went to the Rodbenders Hall on Waterloo Road. And then from there, I think we went to Aranui Hall for events. But that was all midweek stuff. But we'd still do a run if we could, at least once a month, which was always good. Or else have a car display or something. I know we did a display at the Speedway once. We had the cars do a procession round the track, things like that. So there was always something going on, trying to get as much advertising out there for others to come and join us if they were interested. He was always looking after the trophies, and he used to do the flat chat at one stage and keep us pretty much informed and everything. Yep, no, Alistair certainly has been very, very club-minded, and he deserves to be patron of the branch, that's for sure. Almost like a family, because it was good, because I was single for quite some time. So, and then when I did get married, thank goodness, the wedding car was a Jowett, and the other car was for the honeymoon was a Jowett. So yeah, but no, they're a delight when everything's going right, and more often, the vast majority of the time, they are well and truly going right.